P.S. Dadar, we would like to extend a very warm welcome and a good evening to all of you present. This is a special series of lectures on well-being and better living. I would also like to take this opportunity to please request all the attendees to kindly occupy your seats, and if you could either switch off your cell phones or put them on silent, that would do us a big favor. Thank you. One of our teachers in school used to have a set of inspiring lines which he would repeat time and again. The lines went as follows. Watch your thoughts, because your thoughts are going to lead to your words. Watch your words, because your words are going to lead to your actions. Watch your actions, because your actions are going to lead to your habits. Now that's the key word over here, habits. Because when we watch our habits lead to our character. And ultimately, last but not the least, our character leads to our destiny. So good habits and bad habits. All of us have been taught these things since school days. But how much of it do we actually implement in our lives? It's anybody's guess, or an introspection that is left to ourselves. Dr. Stephen Covey, imagine yourself as a person who has a degree in Bachelor in Business Administration. Well, it's not enough at some times. So you go ahead and do a MBA, and an MBA not just from any average institute. You are qualified enough and efficient enough to do it from one of the world's leading institutes, the Harvard School of Business. At some point of time, you do still feel that something is lacking in your life. That's exactly what Dr. Stephen Covey, a very renowned lecturer, professor, and management guru in the US did. After a few years, he went ahead and got a doctorate he became a doctor of religious studies. Religious studies at some point of time, so he was able to merge the two, a management guru, as well as, so he got almost the best of both worlds. He was able to form a symbiotic relation between religion and management. After having walked, all of us, on a path to bridge the gap between my family and happy family, for 7 consecutive lectures, I now call upon Pujya Gnanvatsal Swami to begin his lecture series on this same person and his 7 habits from highly effective people. Dr. Stephen Covey, who wrote a book on these exactly great habits, he named it as 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. We begin today with Pujya Gnanvatsal Swami and habit number 1. Habit number 1 being be proactive and principles of personal choice. Pujya Gnanvatsal Swami.
गुणातीतो अक्षरं ब्रह्मा भगवान् पुरुषोत्तमः जनो जानन्निदं सत्यं मुच्यते भवबन्धनात्। श्री स्वामीनारायण भगवान की जय, अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम महाराज की जय, गुणातीतानंद स्वामी महाराज की जय, राधा कृष्ण देव की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र भगवान की जय, प्रमुख स्वामी महाराज की जय। As was announced just now, we are supposed to talk on 7 habits of highly effective people as put forward to us and the world by Stephen Covey. Before getting on the topic, and before trying to understand the central idea of the book, before getting a glimpse of the first habit that Stephen Covey has described, it would really be beneficial to go into the prehistory of the book. I would say simply that this book is perhaps the most widely read management book in the world. Second, it is perhaps the most sold out book in the world ever. So to know the prehistory of the book, how this book was born, is an interesting fact to know. Stephen Covey was a professor at the Harvard, a very leading faculty, a respected person in the staff room, a respected person among his students, and a well-respected person in the society. He used to teach management principles to his students. But many a times his students would come up with certain theories and certain practical problems they faced while practically applying those management principles which he used to teach since many years. Sometimes he was able to answer them, and sometimes he found it difficult to answer certain personal life issues, social life issues, and professional life issues put forward by the students, certain parents, and sometimes certain professionals. So he gave a deep thought to the real meaning of life. He pondered upon the real issues of human behavior. And he had one thought in his mind, that I want to give something to the world that could really be a source of inspiration. Maybe not fully it is the solution to any problem, but it could help in finding a solution to any problem to anybody. It can be helpful to some extent. He was very clear in his thoughts after he did his doctorate from religious studies that definitely the management principles developed by the professional in the West should be in synchronization with the Eastern wisdom. So Western management principles and the Eastern wisdom should go hand in hand. And that is how a perfect product can be launched. So the first thing he did, he started collecting material, especially the success literature of all those successful businessmen, of all those successful personalities. And by successful, we don't just mean that he was successful at business. He was a successful businessman, he should be a successful family man, he should be a successful friend, he should be a perfect social creature. So he started collecting material, especially of those kind of people after American independence. Because man after that, on that land, got a free hand to express his ideas. So 200 years of American successful history by different personalities after independence was collected by him. A huge data. Then after he started studying the Eastern wisdoms, Stephen Covey, he studied Srimad Bhagavad Gita. He studied Srimad Bhagavatam. He studied Quran as well. He was well versed with the management principles developed in the West. After studying this, he was like, wow, a perfect synchronization. What people are trying to express, trying to develop, and trying to make it a handy item for any management problem in their office has a source in the Eastern spiritual scriptures. The first thing he did, he took a leave from Harvard. He went on the island of Hawaii. First cooled down his head for a few months. Stabilized it. He started reading the literature. At the same time, in the morning he would read the Western literature. After lunch, he would read the Eastern literature. And he started a combination of both. He found it extremely interesting. And after a detailed research, he came to the conclusion that these are the 7 common habits of highly effective people. Those people who have a highly effective personality. By effective personality, I mean He should be effective in his presence. He should be effective when he talks. He should be effective when he plans. He should be effective when he conveys. And lastly, he should be extremely effective when he executes. And he wrote this book. This is the prehistory of the book, how this book came into upon this earth, the birth of this book. And after this book was written, it was an unbelievable success. First time it was printed in 1989. And you won't just believe, for another 64 weeks, it remained at the top of New York's bestseller. To remain for 64 weeks as the bestseller on New York Times, it's a world record in itself. Just for your information, more than 3,000 books get registered every day in the Washington Library. Every day. In the midst of that floor, for a book to remain for 64 weeks at the top of bestsellers list is an amazing acceptance of its own kind. For 5 years after that, it remained in the top 10 bestsellers list ever. Within a couple of years, 1.20 crore copies were sold. By today, perhaps more than 20 different editions, 20 different languages have seen the birth of this book. In more than 20 languages, this book has been translated. Stephen Covey has done lecture series on this book hundreds of times. Definitely mostly in all the developed countries of the world, but in third world countries as well. Perhaps there is not a single B school in America. There is not a single B school in Europe which does not have this course in its curriculum. Many centers in the US are run where this book is into the course, and a crash course of 1 hour, 4 hours, 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, 1 month and 6 months. This book Stephen Covey teaches you in 1 hour, and he can teach you in 6 months as well. This is the flexibility of the ideas and the principles that he has put in. The Office 2 software for timetable adjustments used by the executives today is designed on this book. It's a world famous timetable setting for the executives. More than that, perhaps you may not believe, but it is a fact that almost all the executives of Forbes 500 companies, they have done this course. And the companies sponsor their executives. In 1996, when we were in US, one of our devotees met Puja Anand Swarup Swami, who was the leader of our group. And he told him that my company has sponsored my course, and at present I'm attending at a center, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and it is a 4-hour course. And my company is paying $4,000 for that 4-hour course for me. 4,000 USD. We asked him, how many attendees? And he said, people are ready to pay $400, $4,000 and just remain outside the hall and listen. We have met that person in 1996 in Houston. It's such a popular course because it is compatible in all walks of life. It is compatible in your personal life. It is compatible in your professional career. It is compatible for your social relationships enrichment. What a wonderful book it is. I could not stop myself in asking a question to all of you today. Just raise your hands if you have seen, read this book. I cut the word seen, just read this book. Just about 3 or 4 of you. Okay. Did you ever hear the title of this book before? Raise your hands. You did not even know, many of you, more than half of you. It's surprising. I don't think you need much to know about the scandals that happens from Delhi to London and Washington. I don't think that you need to know about more stories happening in Hollywood and Bollywood. I think such a dignified crowd today, you really deserve certain good reading of this class. Anyway, let me share some ideas of that book today. So this was about the book. And this book has been taught by Stephen Covey to thousands of executives all over the world. In monetary terms, if you want to understand the glory of this book, he is receiving the royalty of this book unimagined by any publisher, unimagined by any author, or perhaps unimagined by a middle-level businessman ever in his life. A sitting royalty. It is an official course in many B schools across Europe and America. After that, he wrote the 8th habit. From effectiveness to greatness. You can be an effective personality. But at the same time, if you want to be great, there is another one principle. Just about a couple of years back, Stephen Covey came to Mumbai for the launch of his book, The 8th Habit, From Effectiveness to Greatness. He toured India for 5 days, gave lectures on it at 4 different places in Mumbai, Chennai, Calcutta, and Delhi. He charged 23,000 rupees per delegate. And it would be surprising to tell you that when the e-ticket opened, within minutes, the 700 capacity hall was full. People were lingering outside the hall to listen to him. And in that 9-hour seminar from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., he was on the dais for perhaps just 1.5 hours. The rest was video on the screen. The rest was his assistants taking the stage. Everybody wanted to know what he taught the big company executives in that 6-hour seminar, so that he can be not only effective, he can be a great personality. Next day in the DNA, there was an article on the editorial page. If you have not attended the seminar, you just read this article. In the end paragraph it was written, if you don't find time to read the whole article, read the gist, the box item. And the box item read, this is one sentence which was the gist, the summary of the 6-hour seminar by Stephen Covey himself. And that was, don't expect others to change. First change yourself, others will follow. Simple theory. Don't expect others to change. First change yourself. First try to adjust yourself to your friend. First try to adjust yourself to your spouse. First try to adjust yourself to the office culture and to the work procedure. The staff will follow. Your spouse will follow. Your friend will follow. Don't expect others to change. First change yourself, others will follow. The same thing has been taught in our scriptures. Pramukh Swami Maharaj, Guru Yogi Ji Maharaj, in his teachings, he said once, and that has been well printed in a small book called Yogi Gita, which we read regularly. It is written, he has mentioned in plain Gujarati, potano eklo sacho rakho nahi, cut vadi jau. Don't hold on to your opinion. This is right and I am right. Form a habit to take a turn. Sometimes form a habit to bend a bit. This is the same thing. But if Stephen Covey tells you wearing a 3-piece suit and a tie, taking $23,000 from you, you will believe it. It's difficult to believe this from somebody wearing a saffron. Even if you talk the same thing, giving the same examples and principles, it's difficult to believe. ठीक है, साधु लोग को क्या काम है, आके बात कर जाते हैं. And if you listen to him, you would feel impressed that, yeah, this is something different. What I mean to say is, when he said that all the Western management principles discovered and invented in the West and practically applied and being successful has total roots and exhibition and expression in the Indian way of living taught by the Eastern wisdom. He was right in it. When Akshardham Gandhinagar was being built, the then CBI director Karthikeyan, he visited the site. Actually what happened, his wife surprisingly happened to be there on the site someday passing through that bridge. And she was awestruck by the construction of such a giant structure. She went back home in the evening and then told her husband, this is an amazing thing being built in Delhi, you must go and see it. He came, and when he inquired about the person who is taking care of it, the inspiration behind the whole project, he was told that Pramukh Swami Maharaj is the inspiration behind Delhi Akshardham. So he said, I want to go and meet him. And he was taken to Gujarat Vihar, a small place, a small mandir before Akshardham that Pramukh Swami Maharaj was putting up. He met Pramukh Swami Maharaj in Kartika and said, Swamiji, as a CBI director, as a high-ranking official, I know the happenings in and out of all the cadres of the society. Sometimes I not only fear, but I have that feeling in my heart, what will happen to the future of this country? He said, Swami, we are running towards the West, but any damn thing which comes out from the West has gone from the East. And he said, Swamiji, the Western people are looking towards us, not because we have computers. We got computers from them. The Western countries are looking towards us not because we have technological advances. We got everything from them. The Western countries are not looking towards our social circles because we have got better fashions and designs. No. They are looking towards us for knowledge and wisdom. They are looking towards us to learn a way of life. They are looking towards us how to live a moment a day a life. Pramukh Swami Maharaj said, yes, you are right, and that is why we have built this Akshardham. To unearth, to open up the treasures, the rich treasures of Indian culture and tradition, to show it to the West, give it to the whole world so that they can live. So Stephen Covey was right. Again I should repeat, in telling that the Western management principles and the Eastern way of life and the Eastern wisdom, a perfect combination of this, a perfect blending of it, can give you just not a successful life, but a satisfactory life. Take very easily if you can, but after a good thinking to it, satisfactory life is not that easy even after having a highly successful life. And at the end of the day, when you are counting the number of decades that you passed by, if you don't have that inner satisfaction that yes, I have lived my life. When God gifted me a beautiful human life for 70, 80 years upon this earth, I have lived in a way that when I go back to heaven, God should come and greet me and say, yes, my boy, you lived your life. Stephen Covey tells, your millions of dollars will not help you in giving you a satisfactory life. Your thousands of relations in this society would not give you a satisfactory life. Maybe it's a small part of it. But what will give you a satisfactory life is the 7 habits. Maybe after 7 habits you may not develop a very effective personality. You might be thinking of yourself, well, after trying to develop 7 habits and trying to imbibe it in my life, I should be popular, at least from road number 1 to 10 people should know me. It's not always that. First comes satisfaction of your inner life. So this 7 habits of highly effective people, it's a good book. We have started the lecture series today. Every last Friday of the month we will take one habit. But I definitely recommend you to read that book. The 7 habits that Stephen Covey has told us about is, the first habit is being proactive. We are all active, but he says you become proactive. There's a very deep meaning to it. We'll see to it. First, we just list the 7 habits so that you overall get the picture of the book. The second habit is, begin with the end in mind. You begin any project, any adventure with the end in mind, where you want to go, including the process. Third is, put first things first. That's a priority list. Fourth habit is, think win-win. You also win, I also win. A businessman should think this for his client as well. Win-win. The fifth habit is, seek first to understand and then to be understood. First, understand the person who has come to you. From help to complaint to a project. Any person who is coming up to you, first understand him. Understand his motives. And then take the charge of the situation. So seek first to understand and then to be understood. Then he says the sixth habit is synergy. We all know energy, physical, mental, emotional energy. He says synergy, S then energy. What does that mean? When 2 or more than 2 people come together, work together, maybe they have difference of opinions, but still they try to be together, come on a common platform, discuss their opinions, discuss their differences, then come to a common procedure and decide to work together and achieve result. The achievement of that result would produce a happiness, a bliss in their heart. Coming together with diversified opinions, yet settling down on a common platform and achieving result. The joy that you get is synergy. And the seventh habit is, sharpen the saw. You know, by the saw we cut the wood. Sharpening the saw is taking care of your body by physical exercise, taking care of your mind by good reading and good thinking. Third is taking care of your soul by regular prayers and meditation. And fourth is absolute faith in God. Stephen Covey has written this in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He says you should be in constant communion with God through prayers. This is the 4th sub-part of the 7th habit. Only the 7th habit he has put into some 4 sub-parts. The rest are very clear. We want to talk about the first habit today, be proactive. Let us understand the meaning of it. We all know that doing something is being active. Like I'm talking this time, I'm active. You are listening something, you are active. You are trying to do something, you are active. But proactivity means, now understand the meaning of it. Definitely you have started an activity. But during the start of the activity, if you make a firm decision in your mind and a definite feeling in your heart that for this particular process I am fully responsible. Starting anything, taking a full responsibility is proactivity. And taking up full responsibility means, he explains further, during the ongoing process of that project, if you find adverse circumstances, if you find non-conducive atmosphere around you, if you find non-helping people around you, forget non-helping, if you find people throwing obstacles in your path, still taking only yourself as fully responsible for it, trying to improve the situation from your side, taking an initiative for that, is proactivity. This is published in Hindi as well. I just translate what he said that in Hindi so you can get a better idea of it. प्रतिकूल परिस्थिति में सानुकूल प्रतिभाव. Got it? प्रतिकूल परिस्थिति, प्रतिकूल व्यक्तियों के बीच जब काम करना है, प्रतिकूल परिस्थिति में सानुकूल प्रतिभाव देना, that is proactivity. And then he ends the last part of the meaning of this word by saying, putting that extra amount of energy, walking that extra mile, facing that extra danger, you finish the race, reach the goal and win. That is proactivity. That means never leaving the project halfway. So I think everybody got the meaning of proactivity. Again, in half a minute I will tell you, because only then you will be able to understand and enjoy the further talk. Starting a project or a work, taking full responsibility is the first part of proactivity. Then when you have started it, during the ongoing process, any adverse circumstances, disturbing circumstances and situations prevailing around you, you still carry on taking responsibility of everything happening around you. For any behavior of people around you, you take the responsibility of it. And then putting that extra energy into that project and reaching the finishing line. That is proactivity. Thousands of people upon this earth are such that they start a project, and when the first hurdle comes, jaane dene yaar, let us leave it. Only few people are such that once they decide, they take time to decide. They give hundreds of thoughts to decide. But once they decide, it should be done at any cost. That is proactivity. When Pramukh Swami Maharaj initiated the project of the largest Hindu temple outside India, that was at Neasden in North London, he decided to finish the whole project in 4 years. And on the third year of its working, the trustees there, they told him that Swamiji, we would not be able to complete the whole project. We would just build the mandir, not the Haveli. That is a 5,000 capacity sitting hall there. Pramukh Swami Maharaj was in Bangalore and he said, why? And this was when Pramukh Swami Maharaj's age was 75. I'm talking of the year 1995. And the trustees said, Swami, we don't have enough resources. We don't have enough money. And perhaps we lack the manpower for wooden work of the Haveli. Pramukh Swami Maharaj inquired, who are sitting in the meeting? He said, Swami, all the board of trustees. Swami says, start the speaker phone. I want to talk it to everybody. I want to hear everybody's opinion. At 10:30 in the night, when he was about to retire for the day, he had to start a very important meeting. Imagine the energy that he must be putting at the age of 75 in the projects of this organization. All the trustees, they presented their opinions. Pramukh Swami Maharaj patiently and calmly listened to everybody. And then he started. He goes, listen everybody, that when we decided to start this project, my head wasn't empty. I knew from where the resources would come. I knew from where all the artisans would come. I knew from where all the material would come. Project must be done according to the planned one. It should finish by next year. August 1995, that was 1 year from this talk. Swamiji repeats, August 1995 I am coming to London and we must inaugurate the temple. Again the trustees pleaded, Swami, we don't have enough resources. Swamiji decided at that point of time, in 1 week I am coming to London. I'll stay there for a couple of months. I will recharge everything. He stayed for 4 months and putting 8 to 10 hours behind this project at the age of 75. Pramukh Swami Maharaj, on paper, financially, material-wise and coordination-wise, he finished the project before he left London. And after 8 months, he again visited London and inaugurated the temple. So you start a project taking a full responsibility for it. Second, the second part of the story is never play the blame game. Don't play the blame game. You and only you are responsible for the project that you have undertaken or you have accepted. So, Pramukh Swami had adverse situations around him. And to have that zeal and enthusiasm to do a project on charity, and in your terms as a businessman, I would definitely call it as a non-profitable venture with no returns in terms of finance. To do it on charity at the age of 75 with this amount of zeal and enthusiasm is perhaps the most ideal example of proactivity. Pramukh Swami Maharaj did this. See, everybody in India wanted independence. Thousands of people said, we want the British to go back and this and that. We want independence, this and that, everything. But one person, he got the idea stuck in his heart. From tomorrow morning I am doing nothing. Putting his barrister degree in the dustbin. Putting his all that hi-fi suits in the dustbin. Now nothing except independence. That is proactivity. And who was he? Mahatma Gandhi, we all know. Nothing except independence. No ties, no suits, no hairs, no fashions, no barrister degree, nothing. No family, no home, nothing. Now India is my family. This land is my home. That is, this start is like 100 meters dash start. Usain Bolt. It's a bold start. And he did it. And we know that he was fighting the mightiest military power in the world. Along with being the mightiest military power, he was fighting the most shrewd persons upon this earth. The Britishers. But he, when wrote to Leo Tolstoy, the great thinker of Russia, Gandhiji wrote to him that which path should actually I go on to drive the British out of my country. Because everybody knows picking up the gun against the British was totally impossible. To try another tactics as far as some touch to violence was concerned was a total failure against the British. He asked Leo Tolstoy for that opinion. Which path should I take? And Leo Tolstoy, we all have heard his name, he just wrote one sentence in the letter back to Gandhi. And Leo Tolstoy wrote, go back to your religion. Go back to your religious values. And the most important religious values in all the religions of the world, especially highlighted in the Hinduism, is truth and non-violence. Go back on it. If you raise a sword or a gun against the British, they can break it and cut you. But thousands of you silently standing against them, they would find it difficult to sustain that emotional pressure of yours. And he went on that path. And that man was successful. He was jailed hundreds of times. Many a times in the meetings of the Congress, he was opposed for his decisions. He was opposed for his processes. But still, he tried to convince people, take the people into his tribe, together in his walk, and he reached the goal. And he was so much steady, firm, stable. I'm giving you this another example of proactivity. Like in all these adverse circumstances, he was so much firm, stable, and decided that Winston Churchill, the wartime Prime Minister of England, and who gave this symbol to the world, V for victory. Today we say, that is V for victory. He gave this symbol to the earth during the Second World War against Napoleon. Such a brave Prime Minister. And when the whole London was burning, when 300 planes from Germany were bombarding London, and the whole London was on fire, at that time he came out on the streets and told people catching their hands, victory will be ours. V for victory. Such a dynamic person, such a lion-hearted person. He used to tell the ICS officers who would come from England to India as governors in their convocation day, listen, my friends, you know, and we also know that you are young and dynamic and you want to do a lot of things in India. When you sit as a governor of a big region, you are free to do. You are free to take a good decision. You are free to coordinate all the activities in India of the East India Company. But keep one thing in mind. Don't talk to Gandhi and Sardar. If you want to talk to Gandhi and Sardar, you must seek a written permission from England. Sending the whole file for what would you like to talk to Gandhi and Sardar. And this ICS officers, 22, 24, 25, 26, young dynamic Turks, they would argue to Winston Churchill that why? Who is this man, half-naked man that you are so much fearing of? Then Churchill used to say, I don't fear Hitler. I don't fear anybody upon this earth except that half-naked man from India. That is Gandhi. His patience, his steadfastness, his firmness, his personality, I am unable to stand him. So don't talk to Gandhi and Sardar. And somebody raised his hand. What exactly is the reason that you are asking us not to talk to them? And you tell them that he is such a personality, Gandhi and Sardar, that after just a 5-minute conversation with you, if they will throw a blank paper on your face and ask you, sign it, and you will sign it. Churchill used to tell them. See, because of that proactivity in his heart, that under all circumstances, I want to do this, keeping the principles in his heart. No exchanges or no releases with any values of life. Ethics, 100%. Values, 100%. Principles, 100%. Perfect human behavior, still 100% firm, not giving anything out. He behaved like that. So that is proactivity, and he took freedom. So I give you 2 examples, one of Pramukh Swami Maharaj building the London Swaminarayan temple, another Gandhiji getting freedom for India. By these 2 examples, you can understand what proactivity is. Basically it is this, we start a project with full enthusiasm and zeal, but when hurdles start coming, we start shaking. Ed Moses, who was 110 meters hurdles runner, more than 100 medals at different championships all over the world. When he was asked on his retirement day that what was the secret of your 110 meters hurdles championship for about 1.5 decades upon this planet. He was the uncrowned king of 110 meters hurdles for more than 15 years. Ed Moses. Because that is a 110 meters race, and every 10 meters you get a hurdle, you have to jump and run, jump and run. Ed Moses said that my principle was, hurdles are those which you see when your eyes are off the goal. I've never seen hurdles, I always used to run. The rest used to jump and run, he used to run. Hurdles are those which you see when your eyes are off the goal. So this is proactivity. I give you an understanding of this by an illustration as well. We all heard the story of a thirsty crow. He was perching on a branch, scratching his head. It's like afternoon, very hot, I need water. And then he found a jar there. He swooped upon it. But to his dissatisfaction, he found out that the water level was very low. He started an activity. But to his dissatisfaction, he found that the water level was very low. What would most of the birds or the animals or even we would have done in certain circumstances of this kind? Okay, let's find another one. Let's fly a bit around. He said, no, this is the water I'm going to drink today. So he tried to go in to no avail. He knew that if would I put the jar around, he was incapable of, because it's so heavy. He was thinking, and we all know what he did. What did he do? Started collecting pebbles and stones around him and started putting it inside, and the water level rose. When he put the first pebble, the water level rose a bit. He got confidence and satisfaction that this could rise. And he put a lot of pebbles inside, the water level rose, he drank and flew. Had the crow not initiated this process of putting the pebbles inside the jars to raise the water level for him to drink, he would have remained thirsty. Stephen Covey has given this example. Circumstances were adverse. The water level was low. He could not go in. He could not put the jar, turn around, because it was heavy. So he had to think a way out. Circumstances were adverse. Situations were non-conducive. Still, he carried on. That is proactivity. So this is an example given by him to teach us what is proactivity. Now it comes to behavioral proactivity. What I was talking about was work proactivity, project proactivity. Now it comes to behavioral proactivity, which is the most important part for any executive's behavior, for any CEO, MD, CMD. The behavioral proactivity. A wonderful story from the life of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Perhaps during the first Dhirubhai Ambani Memorial Lecture Series organized by his sons, he was the chief guest, he was the keynote speaker, and he gave this example, he gave this real life story of his. I was working at Sriharikota range for the launch of SLV-3, that is the Satellite Launch Vehicle Program designed by the Government of India. Professor Satish Dhawan was the chairman of ISRO, and he handed over the whole project of SLV-3 to Abdul Kalam. That you are the project lead, you can design your team, and by 1980, that is 7 years from now, India should have its first self-reliant, self-built and launched by our own system, a satellite in space. And the name of the satellite was also given in the project file, Rohini. That was the first satellite launched by India. So Abdul Kalam designed his team, started managing the whole project, and he started working 16 hours a day. In 1979 August, 1 year before the deadline, he approached his boss, Professor Satish Dhawan, the chairman of ISRO. He said, "Sir, we are totally finishing the project. The satellite is built, the launch vehicle is built, we have successfully tested it, and we can go for the launch." And Professor Dhawan asks, "When?" And Kalam says, "Anytime after 1 week. Whenever you want to launch, give me 1 week time." Professor Dhawan goes, "This is good news." And he called the high-ranking officials, including the PMO, for permission. He got the permission, and a date was fixed. And India was launching its first self-built satellite on a self-built launch vehicle. And it was a big leap in the field of space technology for India. press conference was called. Even the foreign press was present. And the launching was decided at 7 a.m. in the morning on a particular date in 1979 August. And 7:45 was the time of the press sitting. Otherwise the press would click the pictures from the decided range. At 4 minutes to go to 7, Professor Dhawan calls Abdul Kalam and says, "Everything okay?" He said, "Yes, sir." And after he gave the signal, "Yes, sir," Abdul Kalam got a news from his team that somewhere the computer is telling, the supercomputer, that there can be a technical snag. And the whole team got together and they saw the computer mode that some technological snag can be there. And when they checked, it was about the fuel. And the fuel person who was in charge of that department, he said, "Sir, don't bother. We have enough reserve fuel after the initial use. So don't bother." But the computer program was such that even if it finds a small technical snag, it will not run the whole program and give a order to launch. So Abdul Kalam said that I switched over from the computer to the manual mode. From the computer to the manual mode. After an advice from my entire team, "Sir, don't bother. We have enough reserve fuel." And the computer is saying some problems about the fuel, but we are 100% in. And from the computer mode, the manual mode came into power. And 1.5 minutes after that, from Sriharikota range, SLV-3 took Rohini into space. And just seconds into the launch, when everybody was clapping and wow, there was a big blast and the whole system into the Bay of Bengal. Everybody was sad, depressed, dejected, no face to show anybody. And the press, after clicking the pictures of the big burst, after the dump into the Bay of Bengal, they associated together in the hall. Let's see what the Indian scientists can give the reason for. And Professor Abdul Kalam, he was in tears, totally shaken, totally depressed, lost the battle. And he pleaded to Professor Dhawan, "Sir," he could not speak anything, fully in tears, emotional. And Professor Satish Dhawan, he put his hand around Abdul Kalam. He said, "My brother, don't worry. Don't come to the press conference. I'll handle it." This is proactivity. Sitting in the press conference, Professor Dhawan said, "I'm sorry to the nation. Definitely the team under Abdul Kalam worked very good, but I think they need more technological support. Give us a chance. We'll do it again. And as the PM has said, by 1980, mid-1980, we will launch the satellite. And I'm sorry for that." And he took the full responsibility of the project, even when he was not the project lead. He knew that it would defame him. Next day, it was in the titles of all the newspapers in India and abroad. Professor Satish Dhawan's failure. After the press conference, he told Abdul Kalam, "Start the project again." Within 1 hour, the project was again started. It had all the research and the resource, everything. It was just to be built again. Within 1 year, again the SLV-3 and Rohini were built. Again, the second launch. The whole press conference was called, and the SLV-3 fired. It went into space and launched the first Indian satellite successfully. There was clapping and joy all over India, live telecast, everything. And then the press, after clicking the pictures, came in the auditorium. And Professor Abdul Kalam was standing there at the corner. Satish Dhawan took the seat as the chairman of the whole project, chairman of ISRO. Abdul Kalam was the project lead. He called Abdul Kalam, made him sit beside them. And he told the press, "I have just one thing to tell you. Here is Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who has today successfully launched Rohini into space and given India a proud moment. He's Abdul Kalam. He will handle the press. And he kept mum. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam says, the biggest lesson that I ever learned from my life was from the behavior of my boss. When it was total criticism, when everything was against us, when it was failure, he took the full responsibility. And when it was getting into the highlights after the successful launch, when there would be praises flowing onto you from every corner of the world, he put me forward to receive it. That is proactivity in behavior. He said, this lesson, perhaps no management book in the world would have taught me. So this is proactivity in behavior. That we must learn. For example, you are in your office. It's just 2 minutes to 9. I'll finish after giving this example. If you're in the office and your staff comes late, 2 people from your staff comes late, 2-3 hours late after you. You are suspicious of that behavior, that they are lazy, or sometimes they are just getting out, or they are just doing some other thing which is not that priority from the office. What would be your first reactions? Why are you late? You should come on time. Or if you are more angry and delaying your project, you are paid for it, okay? These were the words probably you might use. But if you can say that, do you need any help? Are you in problem? If you need any financial help, any emotional support, just tell me. Don't bother much. Don't get worried. If you can speak this, if you can tell this to your late coming staff, this is proactivity in behavior. If after this lecture says you go back home and the food is not prepared, then and your children not finishing their homework, then 4-5 circumstances in your house, children not finishing homework, TV going on in both the rooms, food not prepared, and the whole house is like a vegetable market. These things here and that and this and that. And the climax of this super story, you don't find your spouse in the house. Then what would you do? Bandish, what would you do? Your options, ne? Huh? Stand up. Give him a big clap. He said, I'll start cooking the food. Practice it once a month. So when the real time comes, I'm talking as a friend, I'm talking as a friend. So when the real time comes, you say that's okay, I can do it. And I'll do it. If you can just pick up the phone and talk with your better half. That, are you engaged somewhere? Okay, fine. When are you coming? Okay, what I'm supposed to do? You start sitting with your children. You're just trying to help them in their homework, something like that. And while they're doing their homework, you can start adjusting the things in your house. It's proactivity. And just picking up a phone. मैम साहब आपको पता है क्या समय है? घड़ी पहनते हो? If you can speak this on phone, Stephen Covey would commit suicide. It's not proactivity. Oh, मैं तो घर का boss हूँ. I can just call and tell her. Is this the things you are supposed to be having in the house? First ask a question to yourself. Does such things happen every day? Yes or no? No. Then it can happen someday. Everything can happen someday. Got this sentence? Anything that comes in your wildest dreams can happen someday. It might have happened someday. That is why it has its vibrations in the air, and that is why you got the thought of it. Everything and anything from the extreme left to the extreme right can happen one day. then why to lose yourself? So be proactive in your behavior as well. That is proactivity. That is very important in life. So proactivity behavior from your side, and when the repulses come, when the opposition comes, you have to give a perfect human behavior. Gandhiji got a 10-page letter, and everybody, and it was full of criticism. You are not doing this, and you are not doing this, and you are taking this wrong decision, and you are this and that. Every dictionary of the left side put into it. After reading that 10-page letter, Gandhiji put it beside him. Mahadev Bhai, who was with him as a secretary, he was watching him, his reactions. Again he picked up the letter, put out the pin, put it in the box beside him, and asked Mahadev Bhai to tear the letter. He said, after all these things, this pin could be useful to us. This is proactivity. Pramukh Swami Maharaj says that somebody tells you you are a donkey. Just wait for a couple of seconds. Problem is we don't wait. You are a donkey, and what would you do? We will discuss it later, but then what you should do, you must do is wait for a couple of seconds. And Pramukh Swami Maharaj teaches us, first you think, do I have white skin? White skin is like a donkey, huh? He says, no. Do I have a tail? No. Do I have 4 legs? No. Do I have long ears? No. Okay, then I'm not a donkey. Let him tell. Jairaj Bhai is sitting here, and I would just point at him and say, Hasmukh Bhai, come here. And what would you react, Jairaj Bhai? What would you react? You would feel that, I think he's calling somebody else, or maybe he's mistaking me. Then take the same thing when you are called a donkey. I think he's mistaking me. Maybe he's calling somebody else. That is proactivity in behavior. Pramukh Swami Maharaj says that you don't become a donkey when you are called a donkey. But when you say, you fool, you are telling a donkey and putting your sleeves up and trying to go and fight with him, now you became a donkey. Because we accept it. No? That's why you become. Don't accept it. There are thousands of things which you don't expect. You don't accept. Don't accept this as well. So that is proactivity in behavior. So in short, activity is starting a project, but proactivity with taking up the project with full responsibility under most adverse circumstances, work-wise and behavior-wise. Work-wise and behavior-wise. The last example I will tell you, in the Ramayana, Sita ji, when she was discarded by Ram, she passed the test after coming back from Lanka. We know the whole story, so I am not elaborating. And even then Ram discarded her. And Lakshman goes to put her in the forest. When Lakshman was leaving back, putting Sita alone in the forest, he saw Sita ji crying. And he was also emotional because he knew that she is being treated like this in a wrong way. But he was helpless. So he also became emotional, and then Sita ji told him, okay, you became emotional because you saw tears in my eyes. He said, yes. She told Lakshman ji, I am not crying for myself. I am not crying because now I have to stay in the forest alone without Ram. I am crying because I can understand Ram, that at present he must be also grieving in his heart. He is also knowing that without any wrongdoing or fault, I have discarded Sita and she has to live in the forest. So he must also be grieving and becoming sad. For his sadness I am crying, not for mine. A 1% behavior of this, if not 1%, 0.0001% of this understanding by the husband and the wife in their mutual relationship, I don't think any divorce cases exist in the legal courts of India. So don't just talk of the great heritage of Indian culture, live it, 0.001%. That is proactivity in behavior, proactivity in understanding. So short, proactivity in work, proactivity in behavior and proactivity in understanding can give you a first good habit of your life. Let's pray to Bhagwan Swaminarayan Let's pray to Lord Krishna and Rama and Pramukh Swami Maharaj at his feet, that this first habit we can imbibe in our lives to become a better human being tomorrow. Thank you, and Jai Swaminarayan.
Before calling a close to today's session, we have amongst us a few special guests. I would now like to call upon Shri Jairaj Bhai Chaturabhuj Bhai Thakkar to please come on the stage and present Santos with flowers.